You
about
guys use your power, your authority to people's lives over.
if that's how you feel.
We're sleeping.
Cops get a call. 2 people are sleeping in a parked car in Lakeland, Florida.
Has it only been parking there at nighttime?
They usually show up around midnight or so, and then they leave by 8 or 9 in the morning, and I have observed somebody sleeping in this vehicle.
The caller requests a welfare check.
Is there any way you could send an officer out here and do a welfare check or something?
No crime was even suspected. Cops arrive and confirm, yep,
Hey, alien.
Hi.
Thanks for shining the light in here like an alien.
just a young couple and their cat sleeping in their car.
Can I have your ID? Both of your IDs?
Can you please articulate the crime that's
Well,
committed?
it is a crime because we got a call about suspicious vehicle.
Can you articulate the crime that I've committed?
Which crime have we committed? And I'll give you our ID.
Which crime y'all have committed?
Yes, which crime have we committed? And I will give you our
What
ID.
violation?
But instead of letting them go back to sleep or even asking them to leave, the cops start barking commands at them, demanding ID.
I need you to identify yourself. I'm not going to ask you again.
All right, we'll get your supervisor. You're being silly.
Okay.
All right,
Get out.
the car.
Don't touch my door.
Get
I'll
out the car.
Can I say something? If you're violating my rights right now, madam, that's fine.
Get out. No, get out. Get out the car. Get out the car. Get out the car. I told
okay?
you to identify yourself, and
All
you don't want to.
Do not touch
Put your
me.
hands behind your back.
Do not
Put
touch
your cat. Put your cat down.
What crime have we committed?
Put your cat down.
Knowing that they had done nothing wrong, this couple does not want to be detained and interrogated by these officers. So they assert their constitutional rights and they ask questions.
Is your badge cam on?
You see that big red light?
Do you know 901.151?
Do you know that you need to identify yourself
Do
when
you
the
know
police
the
ask you
penal
to?
code?
Do you know
Do
that?
you know the
Do
Constitution?
you know that?
That
Do you know that?
support?
Do you know that?
You swore
Do you
oath
know
to
that?
the Constitution.
Do you know that?
You should know the law.
Do you know that?
How do I know the
Okay,
law?
I asked you 12 times. Clearly you don't.
But the officers mock them and curse at them and detain them anyways, and even arrest the husband just because they got a call, even though that call did not allege any criminal suspicion.
I'm being American. It's my Fourth Amendment right, the right to privacy. And I'm still sitting in the back of a cop car with handcuffs. For what?
Well, at least I've had how.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a chance to talk to the couple about what actually happened.
We're basically just trying to cut expenses by staying in the car to save up enough money to buy land just outright to farm. So that's kind of where we were at.
So who was right here? Did they have to ID, or should they have been left alone and allowed to leave?
I just know the law
Listen.
because I deal with cops like
Listen,
you.
he tells you to provide ID as simple as that. You provide your ID and that's it.
You want me to lick your boots too? Why would I do that when I broke no law?
All right, Pumpkin, keep thinking that.
Let's go through it. On October 9th, 2025, in Lakeland, Florida, a call was made for a welfare check for 2 people sleeping in their car. This is the actual call that was made.
There is a vehicle parked across the street that has been parking there for the last couple weeks, and I believe they are sleeping in the vehicle.
Okay.
Is there any way you could send an officer out here and do a welfare check or something?
So has it only been parking there at nighttime?
Yeah, they usually show up around. They usually show up around midnight or so, and then they leave by 8 or 9 in the morning. And I have observed somebody sleeping in this vehicle. At least do a welfare check. I mean, like I said.
All right. We'll have an officer come out there and check on it.
Okay.
All right. You have a good day.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye.
The call did not allege that any crime had been committed. The caller merely said that he suspected the people were sleeping in their car.
236 is occupied by 2.
The caller specifically requested a welfare check. So in response to this request for a welfare check, Officer Jimenez with the Lakeland Police Department arrives at the scene and approaches their vehicle.
Put down the window. All the way down.
The caller had mentioned that he had previously observed this same couple sleeping in the vehicle, and that on prior occasions they would park at around midnight or so and then leave by 8 or 9 in the morning. In other words, the caller was well aware that these 2 were not suspicious potential criminals, but rather just a couple who was sleeping in their car for whatever reason. which, by the way, is none of his business. One could speculate that the caller was just annoyed that this couple was sleeping in their car across the street from his home, and they wanted to use the police to annoy this couple into parking somewhere else next time.
All the way down?
Actually, I don't have to. You're being kind of disrespectful knocking on my door that way. I didn't do anything wrong.
I'm sorry. Well, it's not that I'm being disrespectful.
Man, this is a public road. I see people here
yes,
parked
but
all
we
the
got
time.
a call about your car being parked here.
Okay. Is it illegal?
Even though it's a public road. Can I have your ID? Both of your IDs?
Can you please articulate the crime that's
Well,
committed?
It is a crime because we got a call about suspicious vehicle. So I'm asking you to identify yourself.
Is your badge cam on?
Yes, it is, actually.
Okay, what's your name?
Officer Jimenez.
Okay, so...
Do you have anything that could hurt me, poke me, prick me here?
I'm just sleeping with my wife.
And I understand that, and that's why I'm making contact with you. Hi.
Officer Jimenez walks up to the car, and the first thing that she notices is that the car is obviously parked, it's not running. She shines a bright flashlight into the windows of the car, and she can clearly see that there are two individuals sleeping inside along with their adorable cat. She can also see that there's this windshield sun deflector thing on the inside of the windshield, consistent with people sleeping in their car, as opposed to any sort of criminal activity or even operation of the car so as to make this more of a traffic stop.
Hi.
What we're doing is not illegal.
I understand it's not
listen,
illegal.
No, let me finish. I'm being respectful, okay?
Okay.
We've committed no crime.
Okay.
Okay? No crime. Nothing.
Okay.
Okay? So, in order to trespass us or anything like that,
We're not talking about trespass. I'm asking you to identify yourself.
we don't have to.
Yes, you do, because
No,
we got called here
sorry.
regarding your car being parked.
I know the Constitution. It's called 901.151. That's the penal code. I don't need the ID. I'm sitting on a public road right now that my taxpayers pay for. Like you said, I'm not breaking a law, so nobody needs to ID. If you would like me to move, I would.
No, I need you to identify yourself. I'm not going to ask you again.
All right, we'll get your supervisor. You're being silly.
236. Can my 1099 step it up?
And the way you came up to my
77
door
right
was
now.
very disrespectful.
However, they're refusing
Very.
to identify themselves and getting 10.
I'm a human being.
Okay.
Maybe you should treat people that way.
I need you to identify yourself.
Listen, you can do this all day. I know I just told you
Your license,
901.151.
your registration.
Do it.
Look this up. 901.151.
Yeah,
You know the law.
That's the penal
This
code.
has happened multiple times to us. We do not have to give you our ID.
I'm just gonna scoot my seat up.
Call
too.
your supervisor.
No, leave it just like that. Thank you.
Call your supervisor.
Okay, I did.
Are they on the way?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
And the only reason I was telling you that is so you don't shoot me.
They're refusing to identify themselves,
We don't have to.
and they're asking for my supervisor.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Hey, alien.
Hi.
Thanks for shining the light in here like an alien.
Yeah. What are you doing?
We're sleeping.
Clearly.
We're
Well,
just
yeah,
This
sleeping.
lady just came up to my door banging on the
Okay.
window. So disrespectful. That's how I woke up.
And I
So
just
I'm
asked
so
you to
irritated.
identify yourself.
We don't
She
have
plenty
not
of
on it because
time.
you got. Well, listen,
I
y'all
said
on the roadway.
901.151. And she said,
So I don't need
I
you to
said-
tell me the state statute, what you think is right or
No,
wrong.
we
I need
know.
your ID.
We know.
And if not, you're going to have to step out the car.
We know the law.
Final time, I'm going to ask you. Let me have your ID.
listen,
Give me
man,
the supervisor.
if you can articulate the crime that I have
We
committed,
got a call
I don't
about
care
your
about
car
it. About
being
what?
suspicious.
can you articulate the crime that I've committed?
Which crime have we committed? And I'll give you our ID.
Which crime are y'all have
Yes,
committed?
which crime have we committed? And I will give you our
What
ID.
violation?
So I can do a traffic violation, but as far as the call, we got to call up a suspicious vehicle.
Okay, so what violation did I
So
commit?
which law is that broken?
So the
So
way
I'm
you're
talking
halfway on the roadway, and halfway, that's impeding the roadway.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not. That's what these are for. These are for parking. Why would they build these into
These
the
are
road?
not. These are not for
Can you
parking.
get a supervisor, please, and thank you?
These are not for parking.
All right, give me your supervisor.
All right, you want to get out of the car?
Yeah.
Get out of the car, or we gonna get y'all out of the car.
This is not a traffic stop. It's an encounter with two people sleeping in a parked car. Andrea and Seth are this young married couple. They sleep in their car, but they're not homeless. They're both from Lakeland, Florida, and they both have parents with homes in Lakeland, Florida, but they're trying to save money to buy their own small farm. Right now, they travel around and they help others farm their land, but they want to be landowners themselves. So they're trying to save money by foregoing rent, living in their vehicle, which they're actually accustomed to doing at this point because for a period of time, they sort of lived that van life, traveling around, living in a van.
We've been married for 3 years. His parents have a house here. My parents have a house here, but they're, charging rent, which we paid for years. And we just really wanted to just get out of that. We travel around the United States, mainly Florida though, and we work at people's farms as nursery consultants, bringing their farms to the next level. And we did the van life for years. We lived in our vans. We're basically just trying to cut expenses by staying in the car to save up enough money to buy land just outright to farm. So that's kind of where we were at in our headspace.
So having spent a lot of time sleeping in their vehicle, they had been harassed in this manner on prior occasions, and due to this, they actually knew their rights because they had researched their rights before and used them before. And as you'll see in this video, they attempt to assert their rights here. How many times had you guys stayed in this particular parking spot?
3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Throughout a month or 2 period. Yeah.
It's honestly just a pretty safe neighborhood, a nice place to park. We see people parking in those parking spots. We were necessarily right in front of his house. We were across the street from his house, and on the side we were parking on, it's just somebody's fence. It's not it's their front yard that we're parking in front of.
When this officer Jimenez walks up, shines a flashlight inside the car, were you asleep at that point?
Yeah, for sure.
I was in a dream.
What was it that woke you up? Was it the flashlight or was it her
Boom,
knocking
boom,
the
boom,
car?
boom, boom.
Yeah, the knocking. She just said, I got a call, you're suspicious. She didn't tell me that it was even for a welfare check. I never knew that throughout this whole entire encounter until we got the
discovery and all the body cam footage. We didn't even know the caller called in for a welfare check.
But as you'll also see, Officer Jimenez isn't all that concerned with their rights. She almost immediately escalates the situation. She demands She demands his ID. He doesn't want to provide it because he felt that his rights were being violated. An officer demands that Seth and Andrea get out of the car. Seth is given almost no opportunity to get out of the car before the officer opens his car door and forcefully pulls him out.
All right, get out the car.
Don't touch my door.
Get out the car.
Can I say something? If you're violating my rights right now, madam, that's fine.
Get out. No, get out. Get out the car. Get out the car. Get out the car. I told you to identify yourself and you don't want to.
Do not touch
Put your hands behind your back.
Do not
Put
touch
your cat. Put your cat down.
What crime have we committed?
Put your cat down.
What crime have we committed?
Andrea, put the cat down and shut the door.
She's gonna escape.
Please don't let
Put the
my cat
cat
escape,
down.
guys. Please don't let my cat escape.
We're not gonna let your cat escape. I'm
don't let her
an
escape.
animal lover.
My windows are wide.
Ma'am, you're gonna lose your qualified immunity.
Seth is then placed under arrest, put in handcuffs behind his back, and put in the rear of a police car.
Because I told you 901.151, I clearly stated the penal code for you.
I gave you plenty of time
But I didn't
to
break the
identify
law.
yourself.
I didn't break the law.
So what was
have
the big?
not committed a crime.
Listen, but what was the big
You
deal about?
guys use your power, your authority to people's lives over.
That's how you feel.
We're sleeping.
You can't.
All we
sleep.
were doing was sleeping.
Can't
We
sleep. Right?
committed no crime at all.
Okay.
If you would have asked us to leave, we would have happily
They're
left.
requesting the supervisor.
And then you want to yank
This
us
is
out
the
of our
thing.
car when we're
You-
trying to
This is the
talk and
thing.
be
You still,
cordial?
if she asks you to identify yourself, your guy still has to identify himself.
No, we do not.
Okay.
We
That's
broke
how you
no law.
Okay.
901.151. Is your badge
Are you
cam
going
on?
to identify yourself?
Right
No.
there.
Is your badge cam on?
You see that big red light?
Do you know 901.151?
Do you know that you need to identify yourself
Do
when the
you know
police
the
ask you
penal
to?
code?
Do you know
Do
that?
you know the
Do
Constitution
you know that?
that
Do you know
you
that?
support?
Do you know that?
You swore
Do you
oath
know
to
that?
the Constitution.
Do you know that?
You should know the law.
Do you know that?
How do I know the
Okay,
law?
I asked you 12 times.
How
Clearly
do
you
I
don't.
know
Are
the law?
you
but
going
don't?
to identify yourself?
Are you going to arrest me?
She a passenger.
Do you want to get
Is it-
arrested?
Do I have to ID under threat of arrest? Are you going to
So
arrest
listen
me?
to me.
145, you can slow all you
Under
down.
threat of arrest,
About
I
Florida,
will
can you
ID.
copy
Shut
Florida
up.
28?
We got a call about your car being suspicious. You guys sleeping.
Foxtrot,
All I ask is
whiskey, 9.
give me your ID so I can identify you, and you could have gone your merry way.
We broke no crime. I don't have to give you my
Yes,
ID.
you are. You're impeding the street right now.
Andrea Lake, 5720 Stratford Lane.
People park their cars here.
Let me have your registration.
People park their cars right here all the time.
I don't care. Let me have your registration.
And are they suspicious?
I don't care. Let me have your
Do you
registration.
knock on their window?
Okay, either you're gonna give me your registration or I'm going to tow this car.
That's fine. I will give you my registration.
Okay.
Am I allowed to reach in here and grab
Yes,
it?
go ahead. That's why I've been asking. And your ID. I'm not trying to.
I am not giving you my ID unless if you threaten to arrest me. Tell me which law I broke. Tell me which law I broke. Which law did I break? Are you the supervisor?
No, I'm not.
Is the supervisor on his way?
Failing to identify yourself
Is what?
resisting.
Resisting?
Yes.
Are you kidding me? That's
No, I'm
a
not.
physical act. How do I know the law?
How do we expect to know who you are?
Why do you have to know who I am? Which law
Because
did I
we
break?
had a call and we're investigating that call.
What does the call mean for me? That's
A
hearsay.
suspicious vehicle.
I don't give a shit. It's hearsay.
That's hearsay?
Yes. Which law did I break? You can't tell me.
A suspicious vehicle.
That's not a
We're
broken
investigating it, and now you're failing to identify yourself. That's a law.
How do I know the law better than you? Are you the supervisor?
No.
You
Where
do
is the
not know the
supervisor?
law better than
He'll be here shortly.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cops.
Good, you know how to
For
count.
a couple sleeping, trying to get rest. 6 officers.
Well, we don't know if you need assistance neither.
Do I look like I need assistance? I was sleeping.
Well, you shouldn't be sleeping in the side of the road.
Oh, the language.
Then let me leave. I'm just trying to sleep.
As Seth sits handcuffed in the police car, Andrea is standing outside their car, holding their adorable cat, talking with numerous police officers now on the scene. She is repeatedly asked for her ID. In response, Andrea keeps asking the officers whether she is suspected of having committed any crime. During this back and forth, one of the officers claims that she has to provide her ID because they got a call. They got a call about a suspicious vehicle. But as we know from the actual 911 call, that's not actually true. That's a lie.
Is there any way you could send an officer out here and do a welfare check or something?
But more than just lying to her and misstating the law to her, these cops were unprofessional, rude, and sarcastic, including telling her multiple times to shut up and repeatedly just mocking her in various ways.
And you can, if you identify yourself.
Under threat of arrest, I will absolutely identify myself.
You know that's an arrestable offense, right?
No, it's not. I know the law.
Okay.
901,
Ma'am.
law 151.
Ma'am,
Look up that penal code.
We
Ma'am.
don't have penal codes in the state of Florida.
ma'am.
Is your body cam on? This guy's a
Yes,
retard.
it's him.
This
Ma'am,
guy's stupid.
listen, hear me out.
You
This
guys
was.
stick up for this cop.
Hey,
I stick up for him.
hey.
Shut up. The officer, the supervisor will be here shortly.
And he's going to tell you the exact same thing.
Hey, look at me. This is what's going to happen. It's going to happen two ways. Either I'll be nice, so it's going to happen two ways. The nice way or the bad way. So it's very simple. Stop thinking that you know the law because you see YouTube videos and TikTok and everything. Okay? It does not work like that.
All right. So
Okay?
the law's
So
above the law.
hear me
you
out.
guys are
Hear
above
me
the law.
hear me
Okay.
out, okay?
I got you.
Hear me out.
I got you. The law means nothing to
Hear
you.
me out,
That's
okay?
fine. Okay.
So, we went through training through law, okay? You didn't. TikTok does not mean that it's
I
a
don't have
fucking training.
TikTok. I've never had
Okay,
TikTok.
so shut
I
up.
just know the law
Listen.
because I deal with cops like
Listen,
you.
he tells you to provide ID as simple as that. You provide your ID and that's it.
You want me to lick your boots too?
No,
Okay.
that's disgusting. I don't want my shoes to
That's
be dirty.
good. I'm not a
okay?
bootlicker. That's good. I'm
Good,
not a
because I don't want my shoes to be dirty. So shut up
Fantastic.
and provide ID. Simple as
Okay.
that. Or you go to jail.
Or I
Either
go to
or.
jail. Okay.
Okay, wonderful. You're going to have a
you're
good time
threatening
over there.
to arrest me?
I'm
Is
gonna
that correct?
ask you one more time.
You're threatening to arrest me. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm gonna ask you one more time.
I
Give
will
me
pro-
your ID.
I will provide it.
Okay.
Since you're going to arrest me,
Okay.
I will give you my ID.
Get me your ID.
Fantastic.
Additional officers arrive at the scene, and in fact, 7 officers show up for this so-called welfare check, which basically turns into a law enforcement dog pile to get those IDs of this sleeping couple.
You guys are gang members. You're the biggest gang I've ever met.
Okay. You don't like it? Go to California. That's all they take, people like you.
What? You're stupid. You're stupid. None of you know the law.
Okay, go to California. They know the law better than
Don't
us.
worry.
Go to California. Have a good time over there. Okay.
I'm gonna be looking for all of your qualified immunity. Just
No
letting
picture?
you know.
No, he's
I articulated
declining
it.
to give it
I
to
know
me.
what that
Have you decided to give me your ID and your information, your name
There's
and
no
stuff?
penal code here.
Yes,
There's no.
there is.
Okay.
No, I'm talking to
Yeah.
you right now. Are you gonna provide me your name?
Okay.
No, I'm not, and it's male.
Yeah, you're a professional.
Okay.
I am being
You want a cookie with
professional, and I'm asking you, are you going to provide your name?
I said when you can
Yeah.
articulate the crime.
Stop reaching around.
And suspicious is not
So
a
the
crime,
suspicious
I will
is we got a
ID
suspicious view. Okay, so if you're not gonna hear me out, then I'm not talking to you.
Like I said, I have no issue IDing when I legally need to.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. Can't believe this.
It
For
is.
us sleeping in our car.
It is. It would have been
We're
a.
just trying to rest.
It would have been a very simple. Here you go. That's it. Okay. Have a good night. That's it.
Why would I lick a boot?
Okay.
Why would I do that when I broke no law?
Okay.
Why would I?
All right, Pumpkin. Keep thinking that.
Am I free?
Nope.
No, I'm not. This isn't free. This is America. This is a gang.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Do you go home and you treat your wife like this? You talk to your wife like this?
Do not get my family involved.
Oh, I'm sure that you do. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least I've had one.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is
You
actually
do?
my husband.
Good for you. Good for you. You guys are such a catch. Lovely. You get to arrest people and lock people up together.
Yeah, who break the law?
Do that. We do that.
You get to fill up our prisons. So fun.
Yeah, it is.
I bet you guys love your life.
We do.
Making fun of me. I don't have a house.
We don't
No
have
thanks
that.
to
What is
y'all's
that?
generation. I can't afford.
We don't have penal codes in the state of Florida. We have state
I'm not
statutes.
telling you.
She's
I gave you my ID.
She's probably,
And
she
what is
probably
that?
has pronouns.
Explain it to
too.
me.
Reasonable,
It's our car.
articulable suspicion that a crime is about to happen or is happening for you to ask for my ID or my name and my date of birth. That is
Okay.
now that
Sovereign citizens, huh?
That's, oh yeah. They don't know that in Florida, camping at the side is illegal.
You guys are the disgustingest gang I've ever met in my
I
life.
already told you, you don't like it, you can move to California or some other.
California. I'm moving out of the United States.
Okay,
You guys are a gang.
okay. Hopefully you do it really quick, because we don't need
Oh,
people
I'm
like you
gonna.
here.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah, we don't need people like you here.
Yeah.
You said you were sleeping, right? You know it's illegal to camp, right? Do you know that? Do you know that?
That's a city code.
I think she's home from. I don't know, when she's talking about penal codes.
We in the city of Lakeland. Oh, you quiet now?
I have nothing else to say. Get in the supervisor.
Just for the next encounter, just very simple.
I don't know who that
Just
is.
provide your stuff and none of this.
It would have been so easy.
I don't give
happened?
a shit. I'm not gonna make y'all's life easier.
Okay.
Look how you're making my life. And it's already shitty.
This is your fault. It's not ours.
You understand?
I'm
It
not
would
gonna
have
go
been.
back and forth. with it.
That's fine.
It would have been a.
God will judge you.
It's
God
no
will
win
judge you. He
situation.
will love to judge you.
Yeah.
Y'all do not know Jesus.
Oh Lord, here we go.
You do not know Jesus. You do not know him.
Ironically, Andrea is the one who's correct about the law, and these unprofessional and rude cops who claim to have taken a class on the law are actually demonstrating that they clearly learned nothing. There's a bunch of back and forth here about Florida law and whether an ID is required to be produced under these circumstances. But first, we need to assess what type of encounter we're dealing with here under federal Fourth Amendment law. There are three types of encounters with police. You have consensual encounters, which do not implicate the Fourth Amendment at all. And then you have the Terry stop, or also called investigatory detention, which does trigger Fourth Amendment rights because you're no longer free to leave. Like a traffic stop, basically. It's temporary, but you're forced to participate, essentially. For this sort of detention to be lawful under the Fourth Amendment, reasonable suspicion is required no matter what state you're in. What is reasonable suspicion? It's specific specific, objective facts, not just a hunch, indicating that a crime or violation has occurred. The officer must be able to clearly explain observable evidence that justifies the stop. It can't be just vague feelings or unsupported intuitions, such as looks suspicious. Note that the officer doesn't have to actually explain that at the scene, it's just theoretically. So what about here, where no crime per se has been reported or alleged, but where someone did call about some non-criminal concern resulting in a police response, or where an officer sees something unusual or something out of place but not necessarily criminal? Does this mean that police officers can't be proactive and go look into cars and talk to people and ask for IDs? No, not at all. They can do all of those things within the context of a consensual encounter. In fact, one common type of consensual encounter that the Florida courts discuss often is a welfare check, where there's no suspicion of criminal activity, but where someone is concerned, whether it's the officer herself or Karen calling dispatch. It is well recognized that police officers may conduct welfare checks and that such checks are considered consensual encounters that do not involve constitutional implications. And even though it's a consensual encounter, an officer can still ask for identification and ask questions. The Florida courts have held that asking for identification during a welfare check does not convert the consensual encounter into a seizure. And it is well settled that asking a question of a person not in custody is neither a search nor a seizure. In other words, cops can check on you and they can ask questions and they can even ask for your ID during a welfare check. But welfare checks alone, without underlying criminal suspicion, are actually just consensual encounters that do not implicate the Fourth Amendment because the person is at all times free to leave or to remain silent. Therefore, a person can generally refuse to show ID or even to state their name in these situations where a law enforcement encounter is clearly voluntary. They can ask for someone's ID or their name, but they're allowed to ask if they're being detained or arrested, and then walk away if the answer is no. So here, there was nothing unlawful about Officer Jimenez investigating and asking things as a part of a consensual welfare check. But once she communicated that the encounter was no longer consensual because they were no longer free to leave and were threatened with arrest unless they produced identification, at that point, Fourth Amendment protections were triggered and theoretical reasonable suspicion must exist at that point based on the totality of the circumstances. But is there some general requirement in Florida to provide ID when an officer asks for it, as the officers are claiming in this video? Remember where I pointed out that this was not a traffic stop? Why is that important? This is where Florida state law comes in, because if you're operating a motor vehicle in the state of Florida, you must carry and present a valid driver's license when an officer lawfully stops you and asks for it under Florida Statute 322.15. Here, if this wasn't a traffic stop and there doesn't appear to be any dispute that it was not, Florida Statute 322.15 does not apply. It only applies when operating a motor vehicle. So if someone isn't operating a motor vehicle and yet they still get detained by the police, we're then back to looking for the existence of reasonable suspicion in order to determine whether or not this detention is lawful. Florida does have what they call a stop and frisk law, where law enforcement officers with a reasonable suspicion that you're committing a crime, have committed a crime, or are about to commit a crime can briefly detain you and ask for identification. This is the statute cited and quoted by Andrea and Seth during this interaction.
901.151?
I know the law. 901.151.
Florida Statute 901.151 subsection 2 says that when an officer has a reasonable suspicion that an individual has committed, is committing, or is about to commit a crime, including a violation of a criminal ordinance, the officer may temporarily detain the person to ascertain his identity and investigate the circumstances surrounding the suspected criminal activity. Although you could call this a version of a stop and ID law, it's still constitutionally presumed to only apply in circumstances where reasonable suspicion exists. So it basically tracks federal law. Otherwise, it would be unconstitutional. For instance, Florida courts have made it clear that an investigatory stop requires more than mere suspicion. The officer must have a well-founded, articulable suspicion of criminal activity. So generally, there still has to be some underlying criminal conduct suspected to create a scenario where cops can detain and identify somebody against their will in Florida. There is one weird state law in Florida that I've discussed before that could potentially criminalize failure to provide ID or identifying information. Under Florida Statute 856.021, loitering or prowling, if you are seen at a time or in a manner not usual for law-abiding individuals, under circumstances that could reasonably prompt a law enforcement officer to stop you, you must identify yourself. However, since you would be effectively required to incriminate yourself against your will under those circumstances, which would violate the Fifth Amendment, the Florida courts created a requirement that the officer must advise the suspect of their Miranda rights prior to demanding identification under that statute. Here, there were no Miranda rights advised prior to the demand for identification, so the loitering or prowling statute does not apply. Andrea and Seth were not operating a motor vehicle at the time of the detainment, so it wasn't a traffic stop, so the driver's license law doesn't apply to require them to produce that. The Florida stop and frisk statute could apply to require the communication or production of identifying information, so long as there is reasonable suspicion that Seth or Andrea has committed or is committing or is about to commit a crime. And I see no objective evidence that that's the case here. This is just a welfare check. So that leaves us with this being a consensual encounter welfare check, where the officer is free to ask questions, to ask for ID, but Seth and Andrea are also free to refuse to answer, and they're free to leave the scene. And that's exactly what should have happened here.
If they ask for my ID, a reasonable person says, here
Dude,
you go.
Listen,
Here you go.
And I understand that, but I'm a little different because I know the law, so I want to exercise my rights as an American. As an American, you should be proud of me for upholding the Constitution. You swore an oath, sir, to protect the Constitution.
I did.
So you guys should be proud when somebody's being an American, and this is me exercising my Fourth Amendment right of privacy, okay? 901.151 is the violation that you guys broke, and that's all there is to it.
Okay.
Seriously, you see where I'm coming from, right?
Okay.
Really? Do you love the Constitution? I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so thankful for it. I wish more people knew more about it.
Yeah.
When Seth and Andrea asserted their constitutional protections, which our forefathers spilled their blood to get them 250 years ago, these Lakeland Police Department officers showed their true colors. They showed themselves to be tyrants who were unwilling to respect those constitutional rights, whether due to ignorance, lack of training, or just their egos.
I can understand how some people were programmed to think this looks bad, but you know what? At the end of the day, man, we didn't do anything wrong. I'm just a human being, bro.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a little rough right now for me.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, where this would have gone completely different is
if I would have just
have the same
licked her boots and
conversation.
gave her my ID, and it would have went fine.
No, because I'm saying I'm putting myself in your shoes.
Well, I'm just telling you, her ego got hurt, man. And she ripped me out of a car, bro. She ripped me out of the car. If I would have resisted, oh my gosh. Dude.
Right. Well, obviously, vehicle comes back clear, the tag. Your wife's got a good DL. She's free to go. Okay. Were you told what you were placed under arrest for tonight?
No.
You were not?
No, sir.
Okay. Ms. Jimenez.
Yes, sir.
Is it resisting without?
Yes.
Okay, resisting without violence.
Dude,
so that's when
did
you
just
impede.
Hear what I said, bro?
I'm trying to explain to you.
So why would you let her do this?
Okay. That's when you impede an officer's
You're gonna
lawful
ruin my
investigation.
perfect record, bro. You guys are
Hold
gonna
on.
book me.
I did not make
Take
any
me-
life choices tonight. I'm just talking calmly to you and your wife. That's all.
Bro.
Okay.
You could stop this right now because you know what she did is not right. What am I resisting? Seriously, you're the supervisor. Please articulate this in your head. Do your investigation, officer. Please, because if I go to jail, this is a very, very bad thing.
Okay.
It really
I
is.
understand. Is there anything else that you want to know of me tonight? Because
Yes, sir.
we've kind of gone full circle.
Can you
now.
articulate how I was resisting?
That's going to be her job. She's
Dude,
going to do
she's
that.
a
in
retard. Her
Okay.
ego's hurt.
All right.
She's
Watch
a
your head.
retard, bro.
Watch your head.
What are the allegations that they say is resisting without violence? Is it just not producing your physical ID?
In the police report, she wrote that whenever she pulled me out of the car, I tensed up.
His arm tensed up, and that's what she's calling
But
resisting.
you can see in the video, like I had a blanket on, I had a cat on my lap, and it only takes me like 4 or 5 seconds to get out of the car. I didn't tense up at all. She just said what she needed to say.
If you watch the body cam footage of Officer Patterson, you can see from her angle, like Seth getting pulled out from the opposite side of the car, and you can see he's got his hands on the steering wheel, and she just reaches in and rips him out.
Yeah,
And he doesn't resist at all.
She sticks her hand in the car and unlocks my door from the inside and then rips me out. So it's still ongoing, and I have a court date in less than a month now.
They should publicly apologize and hold themselves accountable because it's right there on video for all to see. But instead, they doubled down and they have proceeded with the prosecution of Seth. They charged Seth with resisting without violence for his, quote, repeated refusal to comply with lawful commands, refusal to identify himself, and physical resistance while officers were engaged in the lawful execution of their duties. The problem is, however, if this was a consensual encounter, which in my opinion it was, there can be no lawful commands to resist or obstruct. In other words, he has the right and the option to resist and cannot have committed that crime. Seth has hired a lawyer and has a court date coming up, so the court will have to examine that issue. I suppose that they could claim that this location that the car was parked was a violation of some local law or ordinance, although that was not charged or even alleged in the case documents. Since this is all objective, that could be argued in court, so we'll have to see. I'll put the relevant links and information down below, including Seth and Andrea's GoFundMe and other links if you would like to help them. If I hear anything else, I will update, and you can follow along by subscribing both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. You can follow me on X at JohnBryanESQ. Remember, our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.